Part 3. My parents forced me to drop out of medical school to care for my dying grandfather who promised me his $3 million estate, but at his funeral the lawyer read a will leaving everything to my sister who never visited, and then Grandpa walked in alive. I contacted Johns Hopkins to see if there was any way to return to the program. The administration was sympathetic when I explained my family emergency but said my spot had been filled and there was no path back without reapplying through the normal process. Reapplying would mean taking the MCAT again, getting new recommendations, and competing with thousands of other applicants. Even if I got accepted, I'd essentially be starting over. Uncle James called me 3 days after the funeral. That wasn't. He apologized for his part in the deception, explaining that Grandpa Walter had convinced him it was a harmless test that would resolve quickly. He'd never imagined I'd actually sacrifice 18 months. He offered to help however he could and said he'd been arguing with Grandpa Walter about making things right. I hired a lawyer to explore my options. The attorney explained that what they'd done was morally reprehensible but legally complicated. I'd agreed to take a leave of absence and provide care voluntarily. The promises of inheritance weren't in writing and would be hard to prove constituted fraud since Grandpa Walter was alive and could still technically leave me money. I could potentially sue for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but it would be expensive and difficult to win. Update 2. The attorney suggested mediation before pursuing litigation. 2 months after the fake funeral, we met with a professional mediator. Grandpa Walter showed up looking healthy and unapologetic. My parents could barely look at me. Vanessa spent most of the session on her phone. I laid out exactly what I'd lost. My medical career was essentially over. I'd lost my relationship, 18 months of my youth, my social connections, and my professional trajectory. I demanded $3 million as compensation. Grandpa Walter laughed and said I'd proven his point about being motivated by money. My parents offered $50,000. I rejected it immediately. The mediation failed. My attorney filed a lawsuit for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy. We'd seek $3 million in damages. The lawsuit made local news. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on my side. Vanessa lost several sponsorships when her followers learned she'd been complicit. Grandpa Walter hired an expensive legal team to fight the case. His attorneys argued that I'd voluntarily chosen to leave medical school and that his statements about leaving me inheritance were future promises, not binding contracts. They claimed the entire thing was a family matter involving poor judgment rather than legal fraud. They submitted evidence of the small allowance my parents had paid me to argue I'd been compensated for my time. My attorney subpoenaed phone records, emails, and text messages showing the premeditated nature of their deception. We found messages between my parents and Grandpa Walter planning the fake stroke scenario months before it happened. We found emails to the doctor friend discussing how to make the symptoms believable. We found texts between Vanessa and my mother coordinating her visits to make her look uncaring. The evidence of conspiracy was overwhelming. They'd planned this elaborate deception for months, involving multiple people and carefully orchestrating every detail to manipulate me. The texts included discussions about how to pressure me to leave medical school and what promises would be most convincing. They'd literally strategized about destroying my career for their sick experiment. Discovery also revealed that Grandpa Walter's will actually left most of his estate to charity, with only modest amounts to family members. The $3 million inheritance he promised me never existed. Neither did the inheritance Vanessa thought she'd received at the fake will reading. The entire fortune had been a lie from the beginning, making the test even more pointless. When Vanessa learned the truth about the will, she turned against Grandpa Walter and my parents. She'd believed she was actually getting millions and had already spent money on luxury items expecting to pay it off with her inheritance. She bought a new car and put a deposit on an expensive apartment in Los Angeles.